And Ben Holt, welcome to the show. Level Up and Live. We're all about increasing, not by 10% or even 100%. We can't focus on those things. We focus on leveling up 0.01% better every day. That's our mission, right? It's the slow,
Mhm.
consistent things over time. And you couldn't be a better guest than what we could have asked for, man.
Thank you, brother.
International acclaimed facilitator, and I can't wait for you to fill us in on all these things. Healer, coach, teacher, educator, and your main projects are the Awakened Breath and the Peaceful Warrior, man. And I can't wait to dig into these things, especially on the breath side. I know it's just vital to. Well, you're going to tell us why, but I just know it works for me. But I can't wait for you to explain it. But yeah, what is it you do for people? And we'd love to hear just from your own mouth, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. What a fancy intro. That was fun. Um, yeah, it's been a powerful journey. We primarily work through two projects that I've created over the past, man, they've been developed over the past 8 years. And these projects are Awaken Breath, in which we host a facilitator training and a training that teaches people how to become a high impact healer. And a high impact healer is someone who's just equipped with the best holistic wellness skills, understands how to package those skills into a really nice offer that creates a lot of impact, as well as creating the financial resources to create sustainability in their wellness business. And then business systems, the conscious business systems, conscious sales, conscious marketing, everything that's necessary in order to be what I call a wellness entrepreneur. And we do this because there's so many healers out there, so many facilitators out there that want to share their gifts and they want to do it full time, but they don't have the necessary skills and they're not equipped with the necessary tools in order to do this. So Awaken Breath is all about empowering healers and empowering facilitators to really take their practice, their projects, and their business to the next level. And it's all about how much impact can we create in our wellness business? How many people can we help? How many people can we support? How many people can we educate? And so that's Awaken Breath, and really beautiful project. We have a nice team now, which is great. It takes a lot off my shoulders. But moving on to the Peaceful Warrior Brotherhood, this is our men's retreat project and our initiative to support men in becoming more aligned, more fulfilled, and more connected to themselves and more dialed in every area of life. From my personal experience of being a man and then knowing many men who are really just struggling with life, struggling to interact with their romantic partners, struggling to find purpose in the work that they're doing, struggling to find fulfillment and happiness in the small things. And so there is a formula that I've developed over the many years of my own healing and supporting other men and theirs, in which we integrate experience and education together so that you can create this really lasting impact on men. And the education is really, we're focusing on some core concepts with men, masculine and feminine dynamics, because most men don't know how to interact with the feminine. They oftentimes portray masculine qualities on the feminine, and this is just going to totally ruin any relationship. This is why I believe divorce rates are so high. It's because we're not taught how to interact with women and or the feminine in general, and as well as purpose and understanding purpose and living an aligned and living a purposeful life and taking aligned action every single day in order to achieve a sense of greater purpose, because purpose is a journey, it's not a destination. And this really needs to be demystified for men, because if we don't live purposefully, if we're not living every day in accordance with something that is relative to purpose, such as service, then there's no way for us to be fulfilled. I really think it's very black or white in that space. So long story short, Awaken Breath and Peaceful Warrior, one is all about empowering and inspiring and providing healers and facilitators with the tools and the knowledge and education in order to go out there and create the impact that they're here to create in the world globally. And then men's retreats and men's initiatives, men's work with the Peaceful Warrior. And this is all about empowering men to be better men, better fathers, better community members, better husbands, and just live a kick-ass life. So
Man, everything that you've said is pretty much summed up to what we talk about at Level Up and Live, right? As far as leadership, showing up as men and role models in our households,
Hmm.
for our spouses, for our kids, for our community, for our team members. And I rolled out a social media post the other day. Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yep.
And so I absolutely love the work that you're doing, especially at Peaceful Warrior Program.
Thanks,
And
man.
one of the things that I've been honing in on recently that I have learned myself is that I've had a leadership lid. So
Hmm.
I've just become obsessed with leadership.
Hmm.
And so I'm super excited that you're on the show today because I know that's, you have these retreats and you have the Peaceful Warrior Program. So I'm curious and I have a question. What are some of the biggest challenges you see men facing in leadership today? And how can they begin to overcome those barriers to step into their full potential?
Man, it's a great question, dude. So I'll just say this: most men are boys in a grown man's body. Like this was me, including myself, for many, many years, and I'm still transitioning into being a fully embodied man in a grown man's body. Like I'll be completely honest and transparent about that. The problem is there is no education and there is no rite of passage that supports boys turning into men. And so there's many, 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 many cultures all over the world where you have this rite of passage. Some of them are very intense and very, very gnarly. And it is the moment where a boy turns into a man. And there's no turning back from there. We do not have that in the West. In the West, the what I call the grind virus, it teaches you to produce, consume, produce, consume, produce, consume over and over and over again. And that is the only intention of the society in which we live in, right? That is the only intention of the powers that be to create a powerful economy. And everybody who goes to the education system, into the workplace, like that is their job to create a more powerful economy. So it's really about understanding your values and changing your values to, as a man, changing your values to be, instead of making as much money as you can or buying a big house or a big truck, is really about how can you become the best man that you can be, and what is something that you can do in order to really challenge yourself, to break yourself down, to create your own rite of passage, right? In order to transition into someone who's not selfish, who's not completely egocentric, and who's not, blaming everything on everybody else, but who takes responsibility for himself, right? And lives from the heart. And there's many ways you can do this. You can do it through a plant medicine journey. You can do it through a breathwork experience. And that's why we have these men's retreats, to where we bring all of these different modalities together. We set the intention of a rite of passage, and then from day 1 to day 5, each man goes through a full rite of passage, right? Not just an experience, but a 5-day incubation period from beginning to end. And there's never been a man who leaves that incubation without feeling empowered, inspired, changed, shifted, and open hearted and ready to get back in there into the world. Now, this is an extremely important part of this process, this rite of passage, this initiation from boyhood to manhood. Because I tell you, like, I meet men all the time who you see the little boy inside of them, right? And it's afraid and it's wounded and it's scared and it lashes out in a grown man's body. It's very dangerous. And so this process of coming into your manhood and coming into a space where you take responsibility, you live from the heart, etc., it's very important. But then you get back into the real world. And once you get back into the real world, that's whenever the real work begins. Because it's so easy to get back into that previous behavior of acting like a child, right? And blaming things on everybody else, blaming things on your wife, right? Saying that she's the reason for all your problems. This is bullshit. This isn't real. And this is what a lot of men do. You got to take freaking responsibility for your life and make the changes that are necessary to be made if you want to live a fulfilling life. And I'll tell you what, I work with men, and it's difficult to get men to retreats to have this initiation. I imagine it's going to be easier as time goes on, but Men will go kicking and screaming. You know what? Wives will oftentimes buy their partners, their husbands, these retreats because they know that they need it. And so they'll just go. My wife got me this. I don't know what it's for, and they'll go. So, we are transitioning from boyhood to manhood in the West, or from the prince to the king archetype. And it's a very necessary transition. And we really owe the feminine, the women in our lives, so much because they through this patriarchal experience of for many, many years, many generations now, the women have not been able to express themselves as the divine feminine. And the divine feminine lifts up the masculine. Whenever the masculine takes responsibility, leads from the heart, takes action, and is the mountain, then the woman, the feminine, can be expressive, and the feminine can be uplifting, and the feminine really just supports the masculine in growing so much. And so I really believe that, long-winded answer to your question, I really believe that this rite of passage is so important for men, and learning how to live in accordance with yourself, live from the heart, take responsibility, interact with the feminine in a healthy and natural way. This is essential to helping the feminine to unlock. And then once the feminine unlocks, it's like two wings of a bird flying straight. And right now there's just one wing of a bird flying around in circles. But when the feminine unlocks, whenever we're able to show up really powerfully, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, right? In interactions with your wives or girlfriends or partners, you've seen this with your buddies, right? The shift that's made whenever a man takes responsibility, whenever a man leaves from the heart, whenever the man is present with his partner, it changes everything. And so we have to learn these things. And there's a lot of incredible guys teaching this work, and we're just one of the many. But we have to learn these things as men and embody and integrate these things as men if we really want society to survive, in my personal opinion.
I totally agree, man. I've been seeing this just here recently, that it was something I saw and read, and I'd heard it before, but up until the age of 7, kids are still in this theta state. They call it theta, and there's different wavelengths of maturity
Yes,
of what the brain is capable of doing. And while you're still in the theta state, it's the reason a kid can drink an invisible cup of tea and say this is delicious, because the brain can't process between the difference of what is real and what is not. But so many decisions are made at that age,
yes,
and
sir.
they've never been revisited. It wasn't conscious. None of that is conscious. It just happens. And so that's, to me, when I see a 56-year-old man like pounding his fist at a restaurant, he's super mad because it's got ketchup on a burger.
Yeah.
Well, that's a childlike response. Why on earth would a grown, mature, successful businessman be pounding his fist? It doesn't make any sense. That's not what maturity does. So to me, I totally agree. I just see a lot of men walking around as 7-year-old boys.
Uh-huh.
And what are 7-year-old boys? What do they have power over? What do they have control over? At that age, nothing, right? So everything is a threat, and it's a big, dangerous world. And so everything from that point is kind of designed to protect themselves. And it's all about
Absolutely.
me. It's all about self to protect. And but once you become a man, that protection, it doesn't really need to be there. And I see that with relationships. It's why does a 70-year-old man and wife bicker like that nasty little bicker about the directions? So you told me to go left, and it's right. That is not, that is child, maybe even child versus child, or child versus adult
Oh,
woman. But I
absolutely.
remember when I
Absolutely.
first witnessed it myself. I think it was probably around when my daughter was born. I just suddenly realized, man, there's another person in my life. My wife is there. And I've just been not selfish in like the mean kind of jerk way, maybe some ways, but more, I was just thinking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've say this: I don't want to do the dishes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is it's boring, it's nasty. I don't have the time for that. I'm not going to do that. And so my wife does it. Well, guess what? She doesn't want to do it either. She does not want to do it. She's thinking that's
Right.
boring, that's nasty. I don't like that. But the man over here has made the decision. Well, I don't do that. So the wife has to. And I think that is the beginning of disconnect. How do you have your wife's back if you're making her do something that you don't want to do? It's just
Yeah.
not partnered. How do you get men to realize this? Like when you're in these environments, because it is like the Matrix. You're getting
Yeah.
unplugged and you're
Yes.
stepping out into the real world, and it's like kablam.
Yeah.
How do you get men to do that? And I'm sure you've got some stories like
Yeah. This is a process, man. And I just want to touch on a couple things that you said, because it's very true that all like negative expressions or expressions of ego or expressions um, of hates or any of these low vibrational expressions from an adult always stem back to childhood trauma, always stem back to abandonment or seeing the parents argue, so you're afraid of intimacy, or your mom left you when you were young and never came back, and so you're afraid that everyone's going to abandon you. These are all, every single expression from an adult like this is stemming from childhood trauma. And so it's really important to understand that. It's really important to have awareness of that so that you can then go and work on it. So I wanted to touch on that because it's very important. And also, you mentioned theta state. This is where that childhood trauma comes into play. Any experiences you have from 3 to 7 when your brain is in theta state, that is the record, like that is the file, the software, if you will, for your adult brain, which is fascinating, right? So we really are carrying these wounded child-like brains into adulthood. And so if you weren't nurtured, if you weren't taken care of, if you weren't taught really important information and lessons in between 3 and 7 in your childhood, then you can't be expected to, right, have it all together and know how to live, right, how to relate with others, etc., as an adult. But when it comes to your question, just really quickly, in that theta state, what's really cool about this is we have breathwork techniques, and also plant medicine does this, but that creates the theta state, that creates neuroplasticity. It's called sonic neural breathwork. And so we use this twice during the retreat. And when you do the breathwork, you actually are much, much more malleable to information. So that's how we combine experience and education together, because the breathwork, it primes the mind, it primes the body and the energy field to really take in new information. So this is answering your question. How do you get men to really understand this stuff? And how do you get men to really buy into this stuff? Well, you create a very safe space, and you give them something that most men crave and don't have, which is community, camaraderie, right? And you make all the men realize, like, hey, you might be white, black, red, yellow, Christian, Muslim, Hindu. It doesn't matter. Literally, none of it matters. Democrat, Republican, none of it matters. Even though we all have our opinions and we all associate with some, group, all of that falls to the wayside when you step into the retreat container in space. And we're all just men carrying our own shit, because we all have it. We're all carrying trash, right? And so understanding that, being fully aware of that, and embodying that as myself as a leader and as a team, the leadership team, every man's like, you know what? Hell yeah. We're all on the same page. We all are all on the same page. We all want to have more fulfilling lives. We all want to be happier, more joyful, better relationships. You name it. We all want that. And it's about, it takes strength to say, I want that. But if you don't even have the strength to come in and say it, but 7 other men do, you will have the strength. It empowers you to do that. And so when you see your brother over here, this guy you just met, who's now one of your, you feel closer to him than you feel with some of your family members, you see him having these massive breakthroughs. Yep. And him going all in, it encourages you to do the same, right? So as men, we have to be permission slips for other men, like make prayer cool again, right? Like, don't be afraid to express your emotions and be vulnerable in front of your brothers, because they want to do the same thing. Every single man wants to heal, wants to grow. And so creating that space, creating that container where it's safe to do that is what allows for men to finally actually drop in.
Yeah. So 3 years ago, I hit that place in my life, Ben, where I was unfulfilled. I was stuck. I was lost. So I didn't really have a role model. I didn't have somebody to follow with everything that we're talking about, that leadership, that leader in my household, in my business. And I was just kind of going through aimlessly, learning as I go, trial and error. If we speak on mistakes and failures and trial and errors all the time, and I mean, thousands of these. And I wish I would have had that guidance. I wish I would have had something, a retreat, somebody to guide me that's been to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm very passionate about that. And I call it 3 years ago, a transformational journey. And so I've been on this transformational journey, transformational leadership these last 3 years. And it's a beautiful thing because we see progress 0.01% in just applying these small little things. And so it seems like for you, transformation is a big, big theme in your retreats and teachings. And so for those listening who feel stuck, overwhelmed, like I did 3 years ago by life's challenges, what would be the first step they can take today to start leveling up and creating a positive change in their life?
Man, you have to find a mentor, straight up. If you want to be successful, if you want to, you can try to do it by yourself for 10 years, or you can do it with a mentor in 3 months. It's up to you at the end of the day. Like, even if you don't have the funds for it, reach out to the mentor instead. Create an exchange. Like, if you need it bad enough, if you want it bad enough, you'll take action. And all the men listening to this, get off your ass and take action. Like, I love you, but seriously, we have got to stop isolating ourselves. We've got to stop going down this freaking downward spiral of low vibe energy and feeling depressed and feeling just totally beat up, man. The suicide rate for men has never been higher, and it does not have to be that way. Find a retreat, find a mentor, find a men's coach. They're everywhere now. You can find one. Stop going to therapy if it's not working, and find a coach and find a mentor. Find somebody that understands you. And this is why we have these retreats in the coaching that we do, because the therapy can talk your ear off for the next 8 years, or you come in and actually have a transformational experience with the things that we actually value, which is community, brotherhood, feeling safe, being able to express and be heard and be seen truly by other men. And so, you have to find a mentor. You have to get support and you have to get help, not from a therapist. Keep going to therapy if it's helping you, but you really need somebody who's been where you are and who has broken through and gotten to the other side, and you see them and you want to be where they are. Hire them as your mentor or come to a retreat, one or the other. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, man. If we had $1 every time we mentioned the word mentor on the podcast, really, we'd be, man, it's too many to count, man. But yeah, it's just agreed. It's just a fact.
Yeah,
what are some of your daily kind of habits that you do yourself that's kind of led you to, I hate saying the word live your best life, but like it really has its place. Like, yeah, what does it look like for you? What did it used to look like, and what does it look like now?
Oh, man. Yeah. So, I mean, it used to look miserable. I was miserable once. I know what it feels like. It sucks. You're doing something. I had a job. I was making good money, 23 years old. I was working for waiter. Are you guys from Louisiana?
No, we're in just north of Houston.
Okay,
close
cool.
enough.
So there was a startup called Waiter, and it was a kind of like a Grubhub. Anyway, I was doing sales for them, crushed it, did really well, miserable, right? Feeling this lack, this emptiness in my stomach. And it wasn't until I discovered something that was actually deeply meaningful through an act of total surrender, like, Jesus, take the wheel. God, show me where I need to go. Show me what I need to do. And then a plant medicine ceremony. And it really set me on a new path, a new journey that I had to say yes to, of service in this way. And that's where I was able to find some really deep fulfillment and finally find deep satisfaction in my heart. It was whenever I wasn't so focused on my dang self and more focused on how can I help other people? How can I impact other people? Just like you guys are doing with this podcast. And there's many ways to do this, right? But I know that this podcast brings you guys fulfillment because it's an act of service. So, for me, there was a transition from being totally miserable to being in service to now today. I mean, if we're looking at a day in my life, something recently that's been very important to me and has made itself very clear to me is I need to work less and be more. because I've achieved, very high levels of success. I'm 30 years old. I've achieved crazy levels of success for somebody that's not like famous for a 30-year-old. And I realized that in the United States, we're so conditioned to just keep going and keep making money and keep creating impact and keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And when I went to Italy, I spent some time in Italy recently. I realized that these people have completely different values. They focus on enjoying their life to the fullest with their meals, with their family. And so something I've really been integrating more so is a lot of play. Playing sports with my buddies, pickleball, spike ball, volleyball, basketball, having fun, playing music a lot. I'm a musician. Having fun and getting my vibration and that energy of fun and joy. Very important, brothers, very important.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like wellness practices, that is definitely wellness practice, but cold plunge every day, breath work every day, exercise every day, take care of my health. I write a gratitude letter to God every single morning. It's a gratitude letter that it encompasses the things I'm actually grateful for that I already have, and then the things that I'm actually manifesting. Gratitude for resources, gratitude for abundance, gratitude for brotherhood, gratitude for music, gratitude for it all. And I find that this practice is part of our Peaceful Warrior morning routine. I find that this practice just it upticks my vibration in the morning, gets me in a space of gratitude and love and that energy. And then everything around me reflects that energy. If I have a great, time playing pickleball with my boys, or I go camping and we're ripping out in the woods, I ride a one wheel at Talaria, I have a truck that rips through the woods. Everything around me is saying like, yes, this is living.
Yeah.
And so all these practices are just to bring ourselves into a literal certain vibrational state, and have a YouTube video that's coming out soon on vibration and consciousness and how this works. But literally getting you high, and then everything around you reflects that high. And then things come in like your wife wanting you to do the dishes, and it knocks you down, right? It brings you down a couple ticks on your vibrational scale, but you started off the day up here. And so even if you get chipped down a little bit, you're still right here, right? If you start the day off by you look at your phone and you immediately start scrolling just for a quick hit of dopamine, you're going to be riddled with anxiety. You're going to have cortisol running through your veins. You're going to have adrenaline. And this is going to start you in a place of stress and anxiety. And then you cover it up with a cup of coffee, 200 milligrams of caffeine, and you're on the roller coaster of demise, man. So just understanding these wellness practices, like if I drink a beverage, shout out to GT's Alive, it is a healthy, intentional beverage. It's great for you. It tastes great. If I have a coffee, I make sure that it's organic. I try to make sure that it's low caffeine. Pay attention to all the guys listening and women listening. Pay attention to what makes you feel like shit and what makes you feel great.
Yeah.
And then eliminate the things that don't make you feel well.
Yes.
Because we've gotten to this habit of just doing things to do them. It's part of the grind virus. We got to get out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about that cog in the wheel, rat race, staring at a wall, fly beating its head up against the wall, doing the same thing over and over, and then expecting different results, wondering why we're feeling the same way and not making any progress, not making that 0.01%. Here recently with one of my team members, I consistently on a weekly basis, I have a 30-minute phone call with them. And I always try to provide so much value to them. And one of our power sessions is what we like to call it. I went in, I dove deep on, I call it shocking the system. Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned cold plunge. I do cold plunge as well. I've had it for about 12 months now, and it's shocking the system.
Yeah.
And so, it's doing things out of your comfort zone, doing things, getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable, running a marathon. If you haven't ran, running a 5K, running a 10K. And so by having these conversations with my team members, one of my team members messaged the entire office and said, guess what I just signed up for? This was after the power session and having the conversation. And we all said, what? He said, I just signed up for my first 10K. And this dude's in his 30s, so I couldn't agree with you more as far as shocking the system, getting outside of your comfort zone, experiencing And that's, to me, that's where you learn from trial and error, is in that growth. You don't grow by being stagnant, by doing the same thing over and over every single day. So I'm curious with you, Ben, many people, from my experience, they want to step out of that comfort zone. They want to live a more fulfilled life, but they feel stuck.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those who feel that way, that are ready for a transformation, but are unsure where to start?
Yeah, man, you got to go to a retreat, straight up. I've been going to retreats and hosting retreats for the better part of 6 years, and there's just nothing else that can create a shift like that. I mean, imagine suspending your reality for 5 days and fully immersing yourself in a container where you're not on your phone, you're not working, you're not doing anything but focusing on your health, well-being, expansion, and healing, and having fun. Right, the big part of our retreats is also having fun, playing sports together. There's nothing, and receiving constant, dialed in, fully attentive mentorship. There's nothing that can create shifts like an immersion. There's nothing.
Ben, do you do company retreats? Like, I'm thinking about my team. I'm like, this would be like the perfect like company retreat. Do you do that for business owners?
I do. Yep. So we do custom retreats. Usually I'll just host my own, but whenever people want to do a custom retreat, we'll build out a custom retreat and bring the whole team out. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I might have to dig into that behind the scenes, man, because I'm interested.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, this is the best. There's no other way that I know of, and I've done them all. You can have a plant medicine ceremony, you can have big breathwork ceremony. These isolated experiences are great and they're eye-opening, but nothing takes you from curious to integrated and embodied and empowered and inspired like a 5-day or more container. There's nothing else that can do that. It can take you from curious to interested, all right? Curious to feeling expanded, but nothing takes you from A to Z like a retreat, and nothing creates really applicable shifts, like really practical tools that you can bring in your day-to-day life as a man and woman. I did co-ed retreats for years, like a retreat does. It's just unbelievable the shifts that they create. And, a big part, what you mentioned, cold plunges, like we do cold plunges every morning. We get out of our comfort zone every single day at the men's retreats. And this is what it's all about, to do it. And then you start doing it with a smile and everybody's cheering you on. Everybody's saying, like, hell yeah, get uncomfortable, get in the cold plunge. You got this. Go a little bit longer. We got you. You got this. You got this. And it's like having that support and that camaraderie, pushing you out of your comfort zone and pushing your edge. There's nothing like it, man. It's beautiful.
Do you have of course it wouldn't be applicable because it's I'm sure it's a process and building on it, but do you have like a snippet of breath work that maybe you could even show us now, or just a technique that someone could experience and be like, oh man, that was awesome, I want more? Is there something we can do now that we could dig into?
Yeah, I think what would be cool is what I'll do is we can share a link to a YouTube video that you guys can share with the audience. That way they can have a full drop in. It's about 20 minutes long. It's called Dynamic Breathwork. It's awesome. I mean, if you're on Insight Timer, Insight Timer is a great app. It's a meditation and breathwork app. I have a lot of stuff on Insight Timer. You just search my name, Ben Holt. And then if you search Ben Holt on YouTube as well, I have a good amount of breathwork techniques and experiences there. And we're going to be uploading a lot more stuff. We're going pretty heavy on long form and YouTube now. So there's people that reach out every single day, dozens of people every day. They're like, found you over here, found you over there, found you over here, and been doing your breath work for 6 months and 2 years, and it's totally changed my life. So it's crazy. It's a big blessing, and you never think that you're going to really change people's lives like that when you just like record a breathwork flow and put it on the internet.
Do you believe, if you think about it, like it's almost like breathwork? I've seen a lot of Wim Hof, the Iceman, and he does all these, and it literally helps the immune system, lower stress, and I know there's different versions of that. There's spiritual versions and whatnot, but it's almost like we should know this innately, but we forgot. Like our culture, our society has forgotten how to breathe. Shouldn't we be knowing these things and doing these? Because look at the impact. You think that it's like you wouldn't need prescription drugs or whatever if we had this on the regular. Like how do we change the environment with that?
We're doing it. It's this particular. Let me try not to get too heady or woo with this particular incarnation period, right? Where I'll say from the 80s to let's just say the 21st century is a time of radical transformation, radical remembrance, radical disintegration of this institutional nonsense that's been going on for so long. And I really deeply believe that we will see breath work, and we will see gardening, and we will see emotional intelligence and masculine and feminine dynamics, and these essential forms of education in elementary schools. Because right now we're working off of a education system that was built basically by John D. Rockefeller in order to create factory workers. And so you got that bell that rings, brings you to the next spot and the next spot and the next spot, and you're learning stuff basically the whole time that you'll never apply in your adult life. And so the education system is absolutely corrupt and flawed. The pharmaceutical system is corrupt and flawed. The big agriculture is corrupt and fraud. So we have all these horribly corrupt institutions that our society is basically riding on right now. And then you have guys like yourself and guys like me and so many others that are building new bridges for everybody to walk across once the old bridges fall and crumble, because they're going to. We can't live sustainably in a society like this. And so eventually the bridge is going to burn. People are going to freak out. But then luckily people are here building new bridges for people to walk across and building, I might be doing this for men right now, but implementing it into elementary school teachings is something of the future. And there's already people that are really working on this at this time. But the remembrance of who we truly are and the reshaping of who we are, and think about everything a man has to realize he got wrong and then move into getting right. It's a lot these days, this day and age. The only way to do that is to get mentorship and go to a retreat and go on your own journey of self-discovery and self-healing and self-growth. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is today, right? So, the only way to integrate this information and to make it available to others is to, one, practice it yourself, embody it, freaking love it, represent it, and then share it with all your friends, share it with your communities, share it with everybody. And that's what we see right now. We see the biggest podcasts in the world sharing truth, and then this legacy media trying to squash it. Yeah. And, we the people, we have the power, and we're tired of the BS, and we're ready to live happy, fulfilled, and successful lives. And that's what we're going to create here on earth. And everything else is going to crumble. I have deep faith in that. So we're like educating the world at this time. And then we'll see where it goes from there.
Sign me up for that world. I'm in.
Oh, real, right? I'm optimistic, right? I love it. It seems like everybody's in. It seems like almost everybody I know is in. The people who aren't in are in little echo chambers that are just like spreading falsehood.
What would you say? So with everything that I'm hearing you say, and as we wrap this session up, man, which has been awesome, by the way. Mm-hmm. you have me and you and just drawn in, because we're like, man, this is like our jam for sure. Retreats and leadership and cold plunges and transformation, and that's what we're all about. And so the flip side of that is some of the challenges that you've probably run into by building these retreats and the programs over the last several years. And I know us at Level Up and Live in our community, we have our challenges, we have our struggles that we're going against, which is helping basically avoid these individuals that are wanting to level up, avoid failure, avoid mm-hmm. the pain emotionally, the struggles that we have went through. Mm-hmm. Are you facing similar? Do you face similar challenges, or have you faced similar challenges? in building these programs and these retreats, because you're trying to catch the attention of individuals that want to go through this transformation in the households, in business, entrepreneurs, coaches, and so forth? And if so, how are you overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, man. Of course, it's entrepreneurship at the end of the day, entrepreneurship. And you're building any project, you're an entrepreneur. And you got to, it's difficult. You got to really be built for it. And, when you're doing everything, product creation, offer creation, marketing, sales, fulfillment, you're doing it all. It's a bit of a grind. So you better be doing something that you love. You better have a really powerful why that's backing up what you're doing. And then, of course, about a year ago, I started really delegating a lot of materials and scaling my business. And so that was a big thing of like, every dollar that you made went into your bank account before, and now a lot of it goes to other people. And so there was a transition from princeship to kingship, right? To recognizing yourself as a central unit of energy, and then you have these other incredible units of energy that are your employees and your team members. And so I'm now into a process of really having to dial in my leadership, where it's like I don't want to watch sales calls, right, of my salesperson. But if we want to get the close rate up and create real sustainability and donate to the charities that we want, and to have a nice life and nice things, I need to. So it's really, for anybody who's building something meaningful, you do what you love, have a powerful why behind it, because you're going to have to do things that are tedious and not fun to do. You're going to have to do boring tasks like spreadsheets and watching sales calls. So I think for me, it's just about enjoying my life, not getting caught up in the mind virus and the grind virus, not getting sucked up into this, staying on the computer all day. And whenever I'm not working on the computer, you're randomly checking emails for dopamine. Like, that ain't the way. So staying focused, staying consistent, and having fun with your buddies, man. This is the cool part about a retreat too, is whenever you get together with these guys, like, it's not just at the retreat. I see so many of these guys meeting up, hanging out in person, having reunions together. And like, my intention here is to cultivate community as well, because we need community. There's a loneliness epidemic in the world. And for, a few grand, you can like literally shift your entire life. That's the reality of things. You can spend a few grand on going to Cancun and getting wasted for 5 days on the beach, or you can literally change your entire life and have more fulfillment, more joy, more beauty. And like, the choice is ultimately up to the person. But if you ask me, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, dude, with that being said, man, that leads me into our final questions.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I just want to say thank you very much for being on the show today. Super grateful for your time, energy, and effort, and for saying yes. I know our listeners are going to appreciate you. You've been nothing but valuable today, sharing your insights, your experiences, your vulnerability, and your struggles. So, man, thank you for being courageous and being here today. We really appreciate you.
Man. Thank you, brother.
With that being said, how can our listeners and audience support you, brother?
I say the listeners and audience can support me by supporting themselves. That's the beauty of the projects that we lead. If you're a man listening to this and you are ready to reconnect with yourself and learn how to experience a fulfilling, beautiful life, truly, like really actually do that, then, join us for our upcoming men's retreat. You can go to PW or connectandevolve.com/men's retreat. And it will take you right there. Also, pwbrotherhood.com to learn more about all of our offerings. This is how we support men. This is our men's initiative. And importantly, if you're a woman listening to this and you have a man in your life who needs this, send them on a retreat. It'll be the best investment you've ever made. Every single woman that I talk to and every single woman that I ask, best investment they've ever made for their partner. So that's one way. And then with Awakened Breath, if there's any healers out there who are listening to this who want to build a impact-driven, successful, abundant, and awesome, fun wellness business, then join us at awakenedbreath.org and come on our next high-impact healer training. We're all about supporting healers and facilitators going to the next level in their life and their business and their mission, supporting you create impact and create abundance to live a lifestyle you want to live, donate to the charities you want to donate to, and support your community. There's nothing quite like it. So those are the two ways, man. awakenedbreath.org and pwbrotherhood.com. And people can learn everything from there. And then follow me on Instagram at Connect and Evolve. I post a bunch of stuff on Instagram. I'm constantly putting out a ton of free value, just nonstop free value. So if you're either a man or you are someone who's a healer looking to become more successful, then follow me there. You can just get free stuff all day long.
When's the next retreat, Ben?
Next retreat's November 14th through the 18th. It's right around the corner.
Okay, so
it's a month out. 1 month.
Okay. Fantastic. And then we'll also have the links in the show notes as well
awesome.
for easy access.
Cool.
Second and final question, what does level up and live mean to you?
Man, leveling up and living. This means for me, this is really about taking your power back from the system and the conditioning that we've been subjected to, and really discovering what it is that makes your heart just ablaze, right? What sets your soul on fire? What makes you happy, satisfied, and fulfilled? And putting all your chips into that and making sure that you are living in accordance with happiness, health, well-being, joy, fulfillment. And if you're noticing that those things are lacking, I really encourage everyone to recognize that and recognize that that is not how you're supposed to be living. So if you're living in the slump right now, if you're living depressed, if you're living with anxiety, there are changes that just simply need to be made in order for you to get out of that space. Like, you can do it. I've seen thousands and thousands of people do it. And leveling up and living is that's it. Because if you're stuck in a space of low vibrational energy, depression, anxiety, shame, guilt, then you're not living, in my opinion. And so leveling up is getting out of that space. And the two best ways by far, finding a mentor, coming to a retreat, and really expanding your horizons for your healing journey and your growth journey.
Man,
beautiful.
It's a mic drop moment right there.
Ben Holt, thanks again, man, for being on the show. Level up and live.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ben.
guys.
Level up and live, man.
Yeah. Blessings, guys. Thank you.